I seriously didn't know that things got this bad for this Rachel Ziegler Snow White movie, but I'm reading this right now, and I'm worried about Rachel Ziegler's career. I don't see how she comes back from this.
There are empty theaters all around the country. We are now at a 1 out of 10 on IMDb for the new Snow White, and couldn't happen to a better person.
Doesn't need a prince to save her, and not surrounded by 7 weird people. Oh, okay, just CGI fictional goblins, I guess.
Every time she speaks, she gets less likable.
She's now bragging about the success of Snow White, which is a movie that's going to lose hundreds of millions of dollars. And mainly because of her, and because nobody wanted to support her.
Controversy around the film began ever since we learned that there would be no Prince Charming because apparently he kissed her without consent, and also no woman needs a man to rescue her. The movie also used CGI for the 7 dwarfs rather than actors because they thought using real people would be offensive.
But you don't seemingly like your own character, so she comes off as an insufferable, whiny brat.
Rachel Zegler is extraordinarily woke, but she's woke in a way that's quite deranged.
And if she hadn't have opened her mouth, I think that this movie might have done well. They might have just been able to ride on the hopium of the movie and some well-cut trailers, and people would have paid to go see it. And then it would have fallen off when people knew it was garbage.
I don't think they're gonna buy it. I don't think they're gonna watch it. I don't think they're gonna like it.
But Rachel Ziegler made it so hateable that you really sabotaged and took hundreds of millions of dollars from the studio. I don't know how anyone would ever want to go into business with her.
Rachel is literally the star of a Disney movie, and she acts like she's some sort of victim, and that's the sort of mentality that is just poisoning people's minds. Like, she acts like her life is so bad.
Yeah, we had more dwarfs than we did viewers in most of these theaters. And as you know, there were no dwarfs other than some CGI weird generated version of them.
You know the saying, go woke, get broke, and Disney's gonna lose money on this movie. And I believe it only made less than $1 million in China.
Do you know, how hard it is to find an attractive young woman in Hollywood who can act and sing? It's not hard. Who just isn't going to offend half the country.
This truly is the worst casting, maybe, in the history of the film industry.
Disney's Bob Iger says their mission is to entertain, not send messaging as Snow White sales compete for worst performing live-action Disney adaptation ever.
I truly do believe that. There's something wrong with her. She's disturbed, she's unhappy. The reality is she's just not stable, like the majority of people in Hollywood. They're just not stable human beings. I would highly advise that you boycott this film, no matter how much your children love Snow White.
Don't alienate half of the country when you're putting out a product meant to appeal to all. It's the Michael Jordan Republicans buy sneakers too. They spent $170 million to make the thing, and it had the lowest opening, under $50 million, of any of these live action Disney remakes that they've ever had.
Some of you want us to hire actual dwarf humans, and then we thought we would have CGI magical creatures. How about this? We'll still offend the dwarves, but we'll CGI dwarf.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, how badly did Disney's new Snow White flop after all?
And if you disagree with this sentiment, I don't need your business. Thanks.
I don't need your business. You know what? Maybe Disney does. Maybe you're a tool, you're a pawn in this film. He didn't write it. He didn't direct it. You have nothing to do with the creation of Snow White.
Right.
You should shut up and do the job.
Did Disney just create one of the biggest train wrecks in movie history? You wouldn't believe the disaster that's been unfolding with the new Snow White remake. Empty theaters, disastrous reviews, and a leading actress who somehow managed to make a movie flop before it even hit its second week. It's honestly shocking how quickly this went from a highly anticipated film to an all-out disaster. But here's the thing, this isn't just about a failed movie, it's about how Snow White went from a timeless classic to a PR nightmare. And in the middle of it all, Rachel Ziegler, Disney's golden girl, who might just be facing the biggest career setback of her life. Stick around because you're not gonna believe what's happened behind the scenes of this train wreck. When Rachel Ziegler was first cast as Snow White, the excitement was palpable. Disney had found its star for their highly anticipated live-action remake of the classic fairy tale. Ziegler, who had gained attention for her role in West Side Story, seemed like a perfect fit. Fans were ready to see her bring Snow White into the modern era with a fresh, bold twist. But before the movie even hit theaters, trouble started brewing. The first signs of backlash came when Disney revealed their major changes to the story. Gone was the Prince Charming character, replaced by a revised Snow White who didn't need saving from a man. Instead, the focus was on her strength and independence. But that wasn't all. There would be no dwarfs either. Disney decided to use CGI characters instead of real actors to avoid potential offense to the little people community. And then came Rachel Ziegler's comments. She didn't hold back, calling the original Snow White outdated and even criticizing the prince's kiss for being non-consensual, labeling him a stalker. To say that fans weren't happy would be an understatement. For many, it felt like Ziegler wasn't honoring the legacy of the story, but rather tearing it down for the sake of a modern woke agenda. Suddenly, what was supposed to be a beloved film became a lightning rod for controversy, and all eyes were on Ziegler, who had just added fuel to the fire. As soon as the first trailer for the Snow White remake dropped, it became clear that Disney wasn't just remaking the classic, they were rewriting it. The focus was no longer on Snow White's journey or her timeless love story with the prince. Instead, the studio made a bold statement about breaking free from outdated gender roles. Snow White, no longer a damsel in distress, was being transformed into a strong, independent character who needed no man to save her. While empowerment stories can be great, the problem came when Disney's attempt to update the fairy tale felt forced, like a message that overshadowed the plot. But this isn't where the controversy ended. Disney also made a major decision to remove the 7 dwarfs, replacing them with CGI creatures. The explanation was that using real actors, particularly those from the little people community, might be seen as offensive, but this didn't sit well either. Many critics argued that the studio's attempt at political correctness went too far, stripping the beloved story of its heart and turning it into a hollow shell of what it once was. Rachel Ziegler's vocal support for these changes only added fuel to the fire. Instead of showing appreciation for the legacy she was now part of, she repeatedly criticized the original movie, even calling it problematic. The backlash was swift and harsh. Both sides of the political spectrum began attacking the film for its pandering tone and lack of respect for the classic. What should have been a celebration of Snow White quickly became a battlefield for ideologies, and fans weren't having it. One of the most controversial decisions in Disney's Snow White remake was their choice to replace the iconic 7 dwarfs with CGI creatures. Initially, the studio tried to justify this move by saying they didn't want to offend the little people community. Rather than casting actors of short stature, Disney opted for computer-generated dwarfs, which only led to more backlash. Many people felt that Disney's attempt to be politically correct went too far. While the intention may have been to avoid perpetuating stereotypes, the end result felt more like a cop-out. The CGI dwarfs were awkwardly animated, their movements stiff and unnatural, which only made them appear more out of place in the otherwise realistic-looking world of the film. The decision was criticized for undermining the essence of the original, where the dwarfs were not only important characters but also endearing symbols of friendship and support for Snow White. What made this even worse was the absence of real representation for the little people community in a film that should have been celebrating diversity and inclusivity. Many felt that Disney could have found a middle ground, casting real actors while being respectful and sensitive to the community. Instead, by opting for CGI, the studio failed to offer an authentic representation and only highlighted their reluctance to deal with the sensitive issues in a meaningful way. The result? A highly criticized, lifeless version of the dwarfs that fans couldn't connect with. As if the backlash wasn't enough, Disney's attempts to salvage the Snow White remake turned into a full-blown PR disaster. After the initial negative reactions to the movie's changes, Disney doubled down, pouring more money into marketing campaigns and editing the film to try and smooth over the controversy. But instead of calming the storm, their efforts only made things worse. The studio's PR team scrambled to explain the film's controversial decisions, but their spin was painfully obvious. The more they tried to justify the changes, like the removal of the dwarfs and the rewriting of Snow White's character, the more fans felt alienated. Disney's usual magic was nowhere to be found. The company, once known for creating timeless, universally loved stories, now found itself trying to defend a film that was being roasted by both critics and audiences alike. Adding fuel to the fire was the film's leading lady, Rachel Rachel Ziegler. Instead of easing the tension, her responses to critics only made matters worse. She dismissed the negative reviews, calling them stuck in the past, and accused anyone who disagreed with her vision of being out of touch. Her arrogance only fueled the flames of online outrage, with many fans calling her out for disrespecting the legacy of the original Snow White. With the film sinking fast, Disney's PR disaster snowballed. Negative reviews flooded social media, memes mocking the movie went viral, and the studio's attempts to put a positive spin on the film were met with widespread derision. What was supposed to be a fairy tale comeback turned into one of Hollywood's biggest PR nightmares. The Snow White remake's disastrous reception didn't stop at social media outrage. It also extended to the box office, where it underperformed in a way that left Disney executives scrambling. Despite a hefty production budget of over $250 million, the movie failed to make an impact, with opening weekend numbers that could only be described as abysmal. In fact, it recorded one of the worst openings for any Disney live-action remake to date. What happened next was even worse. The film saw a staggering 70% drop in box office revenue during its second weekend. Theatergoers who had given it a chance quickly turned on it, with many walking out mid-screening, leaving theaters half empty. The movie was being called a flop across the board, and it seemed like the critics were right. The film lacked substance and heart. What was supposed to be a magical cinematic experience felt more like a hastily thrown together mess that no one wanted to sit through. Meanwhile, Disney's once unshakable brand was taking hit after hit. The financial losses were mounting, and with every passing day, it became clear that the movie wasn't going to recover. It wasn't just a disappointment, it was a warning sign. The film's failure wasn't just about Snow White, it symbolized a deeper issue with Disney's approach to its legacy. The attempt to force-feed an agenda without regard for the core of the story had turned off a huge portion of its audience. And as the box office numbers continued to plummet, it became apparent Disney had misjudged the audience in the worst possible way. So, what does this massive flop mean for Rachel Ziegler and Disney's future? After the Snow White disaster, the path ahead for both looks increasingly uncertain. Rachel, once heralded as the next big thing in Hollywood, has now become the face of one of the most epic failures in recent film history. Her career, which seemed poised for a meteoric rise, is now facing serious scrutiny. The public fallout from her role in Snow White, especially her controversial statements and dismissive attitude toward fans, has left many wondering whether she can bounce back. Her response to critics, calling them stuck in the past while embracing a woke agenda, has only alienated the very audience that could have helped her career thrive. It's hard to imagine how this image will be repaired in the public eye. As for Disney, the studio is in full damage control mode. This wasn't just a bad film, it's a brand-threatening disaster. Once considered a titan of Hollywood storytelling, Disney's latest blunder has raised questions about its future. The public is starting to question the studio's direction. Are they more focused on political messages than delivering quality content? Fans are growing tired of reboots, especially when they're as poorly executed as Snow White. If Disney continues down this path of alienating its audience with forced political correctness and questionable casting choices, they might just lose their once unshakable grip on the entertainment industry. The Snow White flop may mark the beginning of a long and difficult period for Disney, one that could forever change their approach to filmmaking. So, what's the ultimate lesson from Disney's Snow White disaster? For one, it's clear that fans aren't here for lazy reboots and forced political messages disguised as entertainment. Disney's attempt to update a beloved classic with a modern agenda backfired spectacularly. The story, the characters, and the heart of Snow White were sacrificed on the altar of political correctness, and the result was a lifeless, chaotic mess that no one wanted to watch. For Rachel Ziegler, this could very well be the turning point of her career. Her outspoken criticism of the original Snow White, paired with her entitled attitude toward the role, has turned fans against her. If she wants to salvage her reputation, she'll need a complete image overhaul and fast. But for Disney, the damage may be even harder to fix. The once golden studio has lost trust with its core audience, and the Snow White flop serves as a warning. Meddling with classics without understanding what made them beloved in the first place is a gamble that can easily go wrong. Hollywood's obsession with reboots may need to hit pause after this one. Studios should take note. Nostalgia is a powerful thing, but it's not enough to carry a film if the heart and soul of the story are missing. For Disney, Snow White may just be the beginning of a much-needed wake-up call. Let's hope they learn the hard lessons before they make the same mistake again. What do you think? Did Disney go too far this time? Sound off in the comments and make sure to subscribe for more updates on this ongoing Hollywood disaster.